Well, my name is Daniel. I belong to Sunesis project since 2009, and through my childhood and adolescence, I've seen some things which I couldn't explain, but nothing that special. And then many years ago, I came across Sunesis project, and then I had opportunities, for instance, to have sightings and to, for instance, physical objects like probes and spaceships, which are totally physical. They not things that we could see only if we had a third vision or something like that. No, not at all. So it happens so many times. I can't even say which was the first one. For instance, the first time I went to field practice, the, the, the very night I arrived there, we counted 21 objects. 21 objects along the night, you know? And they were very, how can I say, something real, something concrete beside us, above us. And along these experiences of field practices, I remember two times when a large group was standing under the sky, and there had been communications stating clearly that there will be a collective sighting. And when the right time came, we had, for instance, how can I say, rasante, a spaceship which came so low, so low, so quick and so low, it caused kind of a flash upon us. A flash upon us. The first time it happened, people were so astonished. And so everybody started clapping. Yeah, applauding. And it happened again. It happened again sometime ahead. And these experiences were great. Very recently, in 2020, I remember once I was home, and this is Brazil, here the hot weather, you know. And so I was home, and I wanted to drink a glass of water, so I went to the kitchen. I was drinking my glass of water, and when it was in the middle, something made me stop. And then I went outside, and for instance, when I came outside the roof and I looked up, and then there was a spaceship over me, and when it was just above me, right above me, it opened a wide light, and then closed and went away, made its way. And these things started happening again and again and again, and I saw that they were saying, we are we are we are watching you, and we are watching your development and your work, and it's for real, and you got to stick to it, and to, yeah, and do your best. So this is a commitment I take with me. And so I remember in 2020 we had the pandemics and all that stuff, and we had three meetings. One in, I believe, February. It was before Carnival. The other one in September, and the third one in December. And in February, in these three meetings, in field practices, only facilitators. First, because it was it was a practice only for facilitators at all. Nowadays, Ronan, Carlos, Célia, Rogério, Camila, and me. Facilitators have been in this process for some time, and they have reached certain conditions. You know, for instance, to have finished the practice guide, which we call the first level, to have achieved communication skills, and to have a considerable background of field practices, and the will of helping groups, of facilitating groups, and the availability, life availability and personal availability of time, you know, in order to really be available to the groups, and among other conditions. So these facilitators, these people, are able to help groups to go their way in order to develop themselves within this process, always with the help of the extraterrestrial beings, which act as a mirror of our own development. Each step we take towards them, they take one step the same size towards us. Well, in February we had February 2020 we had this meeting in field. It was quite mild, you know, nothing special. And then came the pandemics around March. Everything was stopped. Nobody wanted to go out home, and so we had a field practice in September in two simultaneous places. Four of us were in Minas Gerais, a Brazilian state, and two of us were in São Paulo, another Brazilian state. But the same days, and at the same time, we're trying to do our practices. And so we had many phenomena, and it was important for us because we knew that the work was going on despite of everything. And then in December, things seems to be lighter about this pandemic stuff, and so we decided to meet together, the six of us, in Itatiaia, this famous spot. A range of it's a national park in a range of mountains, very high mountains, and we went there in the beginning of December, and there we had a huge experience. In the first day with Kanepa especially, very close to us in messages telling, for instance, a Kanepa at 9 o'clock within the veranda, the front of the house, cover in front of the house, and it right in front of the cover of the house, right at the time there was a Kanepa, huge, and this stuff, it was great. Then we went to a special place up the mountains, which named Brejo da Lapa, and there we had an experience which for me was the best ever. We had a Xendra right behind, before your eyes. A Kanepa is kind of a probe, and they use it to to screen you, okay, to scan you and the environment, for instance, but also as a signal, as a light signal. And so they're quite common in our field practices. And then we had this Xendra. In Brazilian Portuguese, we pronounce it like this, Xendra. Some people say Zendra, Xendra, Zendra. And it was in the communications we had been receiving the days the last days before it. And when we were there was this Xendra, and it was beautiful. And it has no other explanation because it was a perfect dome right above a hill. I mean, about 22, 2200 meters above the sea. And it was raining heavily, and we have these lightning bolts all around us. And Camila, one of the facilitators, was pregnant. And we were up there, and the messages were right, because the Xendra was before us. And it was quite interesting because six people together, and we were totally capable of distinguishing between what is or what is not an event like that. And so we saw it, and in this message we had received, the guides asked Ronan to step into it. But unfortunately it wasn't possible because we were as I said, heavy rain and these lightning bolts all around us, and there was a kind of a slope, he would have to go downhill and uphill in a very muddy place where he could perhaps sleep, and get real problems if something happened. And it was late in the night, and so we thought, well, it doesn't look like it's the moment. Perhaps it's a test for our ability to trust and to also to be brave, but also to judge, to measure the risks, yeah, and to be capable of deciding whether it's the case or not. So we decided not this time. It will be quite complicated. This was the greatest for me. Once, many years ago, we were in in field practice here in Minas Gerais, and we were about 10 people in the self-controlled spot, which is a place where we have our experiences, especially prepared for that. And somebody said, "Look, what's that?" And so about 100 meters away from us, there was this kind of a huge form like this, and a light beside it, beside this perhaps this being, kind of hovering, and sometimes it went like this, pointing to this light, and it was really huge. I mean, about 3 or 4 meters tall. Okay. So when I saw it, I couldn't believe it. But there were nine people else, and everybody's seeing the same. So, is it real? Yes. And we just stayed there, and we kept looking at it. And apparently it was a being, an extraterrestrial being, around 100 meters away, perhaps 200 meters away, I can't say for sure. And with this light, which we believed it was also a Kanepa, a probe. And then we had to go away. We had to go away. And then the next day we went there, in the day of light, in the light of the day, I mean, and we checked it out, and there was no explanation for that.